Hey everybody, welcome to Example of Play, the home for strategy, tactics, and more. If you haven't subscribed already, now's your chance. This video is going to be a review of the new 4X game Zephon. This is a wild and crazy setting for a 4X game developed by Proxy Studios, the team that brought you Gladius, Relics of War, a very solid Warhammer 40k game in the style of Civilization 5 or 6, but with a focus on war over diplomacy and economics and everything else. This is Proxy Studios taking what they built there and putting their own setting onto it. A very imaginative, very colorful world that combines post-apocalyptic situation for humanity where aliens have invaded, a rogue AI has built nightmare robots, and in the wake of the invasion, the robots, the aliens fighting each other, everything getting crazy. As you can see from the art here in the opening, it's a nightmare world, but it's very original. It's very rich and colorful, and it is all wrapped around a really solid 4X strategy game. So let's jump into it, take a look what makes this game fun, what makes it unique, and is it worth your time? So here we are. This is what it looks like right at the start of a game of Zephon. If you've ever played Civilization or a lot of other 4Xs, this is going to look really familiar. We've got a big map with the fog of war over it. We've got a few starting units. We've got these engineers who can found a city for us. The game will even give you some ideas of good spots to start. What makes this game different is the setting. It's completely original. It reminds me of the movie Annihilation a little bit. It's got some of that to it. It's got some eldritch horror, there's alien stuff, there's machines, there's high-tech things, and then you've got these different human factions. You're always playing as the humans, but there are different factions, different characters that change not just the way that your strategy is going to go, it changes what kind of units you have access to sooner or later, and it changes the story. So the game is really, really rich in terms of story as you play. You're not just reenacting history, you're not just fighting a war. You're kind of learning about this world as you go and the characters in it, and you even get choices. So the one of the things that the developers wanted to do was give a focus um, to replayability and making you want to finish the game. Every map you explore is covered in interesting terrain. It looks like a wasteland, but it's colorful. It's not boring. There are lots of different types of terrain. There are neutral enemies you'll run into that can range from monsters, creatures, to robots, to rogue humans. As you explore, it's going to be there's just everything's dangerous, but everything's still kind of beautiful in its way, which are really nice juxtaposition between those things that make the world interesting to look at and see as you go. If we take a quick tour around the screen here, the UI, it's very clean and crisp. It reminds me of the Endless Legends or the other Endless Space, those games that had really great UIs that gave you just exactly the information you needed, used kind of minimalist in a lot of ways, but with colors to make it clear which resources are needed for which things. Um, Very easy to read tooltips that explain everything that you need. Really like the UI in this game. As the game goes on, you'll found cities, you'll expand them out just like you would in a lot of other games. You'll research new technologies. The research tree is pretty extensive, though, since all the factions are humans, they share a lot of the same research technologies. Some are unique to each faction, but a lot of them are shared. You can focus on different types. There's some different flavors: human, voice, cyber, that kind of give focus to certain kinds of units, and also different kind of depending on what kind of resources you find may affect your game. And then depending on which character you're playing, which faction you're playing, the order of which things you get is different, which will shape your gameplay too. So even if a lot of the technologies are the same game to game, you might not have access to certain things. You're going to build out in different ways as you go. And then you'll explore the map. You'll run into the other factions on the map. The aliens that are here are always present, and then the Zephon, the from the title, the AI that you don't really know what it's doing. Is it trying to take over the world, wipe out humanity? As you play, you'll kind of like explore some of those things about it, because the story will unfold through each game that you play. To give you an idea of the different factions, whenever you go to start a new match, there are 8 different human factions to play from. They have interesting names like the Emulated Mind, the Fallen Soldier, the Furtive Tribunal, and each of them has a variety of traits that give it character and also change the gameplay. So they're going to have the units act in different ways, give you different advantages and disadvantages. They have detailed story. So all of this is just given some backstory on the Untold Prophet, what's going on there, what is the background of that character in this world, which it adds a lot to the game because you're not just playing, say, in Civilization, the Germans or the French, where you might have your favorite. They might have one or two things that make them unique at different points in the game. Where here, which character you're playing, you kind of role play that character a little bit. It's going to shape both your gameplay and your story choices because as you play, you're doing the normal thing. You're trying to take over the map. You're trying to defeat the other opponents on the map, either form an alliance or wipe out everyone. Those are kind of your 2 victory conditions. But as you go, you'll get quests. You'll unlock different story. You could play the same faction and play against the same opponents but make different choices in terms of the story, which will give you different quests to go after, kind of pushes you around the map in different ways. And one thing that I think is really cool, it gives you a reason to finish the game. So in a lot of Civilization type games, you get to the end game, you're going to win, but it takes forever to play those last 20, 30 turns to actually finish the match. In Zephon, they actually give you an incentive to finish the match because for each time you beat the game and the story turns out different ways, there are different conditions you can meet that will unlock mutators. So we see here, these are some of the mutators, and to get these, all of them have different ways to unlock them. The game doesn't necessarily tell you. You can look it up if you want to, but it changes. This one, like, everything's explored at the start of the match, or leaders have no special research affinities, or you can unlimited tile acquisition range, so your cities can be as big as you want. So it changes or like this one does the opposite. You can only research your affinity or no affinity, so you can't get the broad different technologies. You were kind of locked in to a narrow focus. So those things change the way you might play the game entirely, and you can turn on multiple different ones. But the only way to get those is to actually play the matches and win and make different story choices. So it gives you a reason to do that, which I think is really cool and unique for a 4X game. Now, the other part of the game that makes it really fun to play is the actual gameplay. Just like with Gladius, the focus here is on combat over anything else, really. There is the elements of exploration, building your cities, dealing with your economy to some extent, but that's all pretty simple in this game compared to some. And then there's diplomacy. You do have quite a few options, but basically you're either trying to make friends or get the other AI to help you or hurt enemies. But it's pretty straightforward, but it's there. But really, the star of the show here is the combat. This is a jumping into a match 69 turns in. So now I have some tanks on the field. I've found like this high-tech transport hovercraft. There are hero units. There's regular soldiers. As you play, even your like starting soldiers can be upgraded so they can get more abilities. Like these militants are kind of just basic infantry, but as you go, you can unlock different kinds of grenades for them. You can unlock traits for them, let them heal faster or have more units in a squad, and they level up. So if you keep a unit alive over the course of the game, They will gain experience just by fighting, defeating enemies, or being nearby when other units defeat enemies. And as they level up, they get more health, more damage, more morale, and they just get better. So that gives you a reason to keep units alive for a long time and not just throw them into the grinder. There's also hero units that can be equipped with items that you find. There is the Concordat where you can purchase resources, you can purchase special items to equip with your heroes. So it gives you some customization there. So with combat being the start of the show, we'll see a little of it here. Pretty straightforward. Highlight a unit, you can see the units it can attack. Different units have much different ranges. Uh, and with their different weapons, sometimes they'll only use certain weapons at certain ranges. So like this tank, it's been upgraded to have this machine gun on it. Getting close, it'll add that to its attack. Your regular infantry can move in. We'll toss a grenade instead of firing. Enemy has Overwatch, you got to think about that. You have special abilities with cooldowns that you can choose to use, but know that you won't have them for a while. And then all that comes together to make a pretty fun, easy to play, but really deep combat system where you've got all these little factors to consider that, depending on the difficulty you're playing at, are going to matter more or less. You can't just always, on easy, you can just build lots of units, you can steamroll the enemy. But on harder difficulties, you need to be paying attention because you're dealing with a very dangerous world where you're up against the other factions. There are giant monsters spread around the world in different places. There are things like this Dream Eater that can break your unit's morale and then take over their minds and run off with them, and you have to defeat it to get them back. So it's a really hostile world where you have to be careful as you go, but it creates a really vivid setting for the game. If I had to level any criticism at Zephon, it does everything it sets out to do. It looks nice, it's colorful, it has a unique setting, but it does have probably the one flaw is that you are coming into this really alien, strange world, and the game doesn't do a great job of onboarding you into that. There is an introductory game you can choose to play, but it's really just this map. It's basically just an easy match that's been set up on a small map with kind of one of the more standard type of factions to start with. And so it gets you jumping into the game. There's tooltips that pop up. There is like a compendium here that gives you a lot of information, but it doesn't go into detail on a lot of it. And so some things, I'm pretty sure some things are never really explained. Some mechanics are just kind of there for you to figure out on your own. It's a game that sort of assumes that you know how to play this kind of game already when you start, and it's going to give you some tips here and there, some basic stuff, but it's not really going to explain fully how a lot of the mechanics work. You're kind of up to you to figure that out yourself. That creates a great opportunity for me to make a little separate video kind of walking you through that and getting you started. But in generally, a little bit more detail or a little bit more thorough on the compendium would probably be the one thing I would say this game could use some improvement on. But as far as the actual gameplay, it's great. If you like 4X games, if you like the focus on tactical combat over anything else, and a game with a unique setting. You know, we always say we want to see new settings, new stories. This game is, loaded with a really interesting world, and it's almost like spoilers. I don't want to tell you the things that happen as you go through a match. Even just one playthrough as one faction will be different from one to the next because the choices you make are going to lead you down different paths with the characters that come up, with the quests that come up. And so there's not many 4X games you can say that where like there's a spoiler alert. I don't want to tell you what happens, because it's really interesting. And then, as I mentioned, when you get to the end of a match, you're gonna get an actual like conclusion. It's not just like game over, you won, and go back to the main menu. You're gonna get some like an epilogue almost, like something that happens at the end every time you play, and so it makes it worth your while to get there and see what that is. And so all that together, I can definitely say I highly recommend this game. It is really good for what it is. It might not be for everyone, But if you're at all interested, I think you can't really go wrong. Like, it's really fun. It's really put together. I haven't run into a single bug. Loads fast, looks great. So well done to Proxy Studios on stepping out on their own, creating their own world, publishing their own game, and I hope to see more from them in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time.